The world you walk through each day is not simply a place, it is not simply buildings, streets, and strangers. It is not merely a sequence of events or a collage of random moments. No, the world you live in is a mirror. It reflects your innermost thoughts, your dominant beliefs, and the silent patterns of your mind. Whatever you allow to dwell in your thoughts will, over time, appear in the shape of your life. Your relationships, your work, your wealth, your sense of peace or frustration, all of it is shaped first in the invisible workshop of your thinking. You are not at the mercy of fate, nor are you drifting in chaos. You are the architect, the builder, and the sculptor of your surroundings. As James Allen wrote, "You are today where your thoughts have brought you, you will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you." If this is your first time hearing a message like this, I encourage you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what kind of thoughts have I been nurturing? Are they thoughts of courage or worry, of possibility or fear? Are they thoughts that belong to the person I want to become? Or are they hand-me-down ideas I've never questioned? Now, if you find this message striking a chord with you, if something inside of you says, yes, I needed to hear this, then I invite you to like this message and subscribe for more. Because this idea, this one truth, can be the beginning of a new life. The seed of change is planted the moment you recognize your responsibility in shaping your world. The outer world bends to the inner image. It always has, and it always will. You see, the mind is like a garden. You can plant whatever seeds you choose. Seeds of joy, of abundance, of mastery, or seeds of fear, of envy, of failure. But what you plant, you will reap. This is not a poetic statement. It is a law as certain and unbending as gravity. If a man fills his mind each day with defeat, scarcity, or worry, his experience will mirror that darkness. And if a woman fills her mind with ideas of growth, of contribution, of strength, then her life will unfold with opportunity and beauty. The universe does not ask whether the seed is good or bad. It simply grows what you plant. Most people go through life planting weeds and wondering why their harvest is bitter. They speak of bad luck, of difficult times, of unfair circumstances. But luck is merely the name we give to the fruit of past thoughts. Now let's consider something else. If you change your dominant thought patterns today, your world will begin to change. Not in years, not even in months, but today. From the moment you make the decision that your thoughts will no longer be careless passengers, but instead disciplined servants, the world around you will begin to take new shape. You'll speak differently. You'll carry yourself with more confidence. People will notice, and eventually they will respond. You'll no longer shrink from opportunities or give energy to worry. Your inner world will become orderly, and so will your circumstances, your income, your peace, your direction. Why? Because the outer is always a faithful echo of the inner. This is not philosophy. It is life as it truly operates. One of the tragedies of modern living is that most people are trained in everything but the mind. We're taught how to read, how to compute, how to memorize dates and figures, but very few people are ever taught how to think. Not just to recall or to repeat, but to focus thought with precision, with purpose, and with persistence. The great thinkers of history all knew this, that a man or woman becomes what they think about most of the time. It's as true now as it was then. The reason so many live lives of quiet frustration is not because they lack potential, it's because they never claimed authority over their mental garden, and no one can do that for you. It is a private daily choice to decide what kind of world you want to live in and then plant it through thought. What does it mean to take control of your mind? It means you stop allowing the news, gossip, social pressure, or your past to dictate your mental patterns. It means you build a mental sanctuary that is strong, deliberate, and calm. It means you wake up with purpose. You begin to feed your mind with images and thoughts of the life you choose to create, not the life you fear. Most people live in reaction, but you must live in reflection. Reflection is not passive. It is the mind's ability to imagine boldly, to picture clearly, to direct consistently. If you do this for even 30 days, the world will begin to shift, because the world is always shifting in response to your dominant state. There is a reason the greatest teachers, from Marcus Aurelius to Jesus Christ, emphasize thought, not just action, but thought. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Whatsoever things are pure, think on these things. Why? Because your thought is the origin of your life. Your thoughts shape your beliefs. Your beliefs shape your actions. Your actions shape your habits, and your habits build your destiny. Most people try to change their life by force, by struggling with habits. but they never address the seed, the thought. Once you change the thought, the rest will follow. You don't pull weeds out one by one. You change the environment. The garden obeys. This is why affirmations are powerful, not because of magic, but because of repetition. When you affirm a truth, not once but daily, it begins to carve new grooves in the mind. And the mind, like a riverbed, begins to shape the direction of your attention. Let me give you a law that has changed lives. Write it down and place it somewhere you'll see it. My mind is a magnet for peace, power, and prosperity. I reflect what I believe, and I believe in abundance. Say it again. Let it become part of you. Let it shape your language, your walk, your decisions. You are not what the world says you are. You are what you habitually think you are. And once you understand this, you will begin to treat your thoughts like gold. You may say, but Earl, what if I've lived years thinking negatively? What if I've made mistakes? My answer is this: so has every man and woman who ever accomplished anything. You are not a prisoner of your past unless you believe you are. You are not trapped by circumstances unless you permit them to rule your mind. Every sunrise is a reset. Your past does not build your future. Your thoughts do. And this moment is brand new. You don't need to be perfect. You simply need to begin. Choose one new thought today, one new belief, one statement you will not break, and then repeat it until your world changes, because it will. And so remember this truth: your outer world reflects your inner world. You do not see the world as it is. You see it as you are. And what you are is shaped by what you think. Every thought carries a vibration, a blueprint, a seed. You are planting every moment, whether you're conscious of it or not. But now that you know this, you are no longer a wanderer. You are a builder. You are a thinker. You are a reflection of the mind you choose to cultivate. Let this be the day you begin. Let this be the day your life turns, because once you change your thoughts, the world cannot help but change around you. If you were to look closely at the most successful, fulfilled individuals in the world, you would find one powerful similarity. Not in their backgrounds, not in their careers, not in their personalities, but in the quality of their inner world. They live from the inside out. They do not let the world dictate how they feel, what they believe, or what they become. Instead, they think deeply, deliberately, and consistently about the life they wish to create, and over time, that vision becomes their reality. They understand that the mind is the command center of their destiny. It is not chance that separates them from others. It is clarity. Clarity of purpose, clarity of thought, clarity of identity. You cannot rise above the dominant thoughts you allow to live in your mind, and neither can I. Thought is the ceiling or the wings. So many people drift from job to job, from relationship to relationship, from one disappointment to the next, not because the world is unfair, but because they've never been taught to master the one thing that governs all outcomes: their thinking. They believe that if they just find the right strategy, the right timing, or the right break, everything will change. But the truth is, unless the mind changes, nothing lasting will ever change. Temporary improvements may come, but the internal blueprint, the thought patterns, will always return them to their average. Your average results, your average emotions, your average life, they are all the children of your average thinking. And that can only change when you consciously choose a new level. The question is, what are you thinking about today? What is the atmosphere of your mind? Is it filled with goals, vision, service, strength, love? Or is it dominated by doubt, fear, comparison, complaint, or anger? Whatever fills your thoughts fills your future. If you're honest with yourself, you will realize that your external conditions reflect your internal climate. And here's the liberating truth: if you don't like the world you see, you can begin to change it by changing what you think. The world, after all, is not what it is what you believe it is. That is why two people can walk through the same day, face the same challenges, and emerge with completely different outcomes. The difference was not in the world. The difference was in the lens of thought. Let's take a moment to anchor that truth with an image. Picture yourself holding a paintbrush, and each thought you have adds a color to the canvas of your life. Some thoughts are dark and muddy, others vibrant and powerful. Now ask yourself, what kind of picture am I painting each day? Is it a masterpiece, a vision, a reflection of light and strength? Or is it scattered, chaotic, unclear? You see, the mind is always painting, whether we know it or not. And the picture it creates becomes our reality. If you begin each morning with complaint, with dread, with distraction, then the world will respond in kind. But if you begin with gratitude, purpose, and focus, your day will reflect that back to you. This is not theory, it is observation. It is law. That is why your morning matters more than most people realize. The first thoughts you think upon waking set the tone for the rest of the day. They prime your focus. They establish the rhythm of your mind. Start your day with scattered noise and you will find yourself pulled in every direction. But start your day with intention, with a written goal, a clear affirmation, a few moments of stillness, and your entire day will follow that path. The mind follows the first command. Train it wisely. Give it an instruction before the world has a chance to. If you do this consistently, you will find the world begins to respond in strange and beautiful ways. Opportunities will seem to appear. Coincidences will align. People will treat you differently, not because they've changed, but because you have. You see, there is a subtle energy that flows from someone who thinks with clarity. It's in their words, their presence, their demeanor. They do not shout, yet they command. They do not beg, yet they receive. This is the quiet power of someone who has taken authority over their thoughts. They know where they are going. They are not easily shaken by setbacks or noise because their mind is anchored. This is not arrogance, it is inner alignment, and anyone can develop it. But it begins not with force, not with noise, but with stillness, with reflection, with the choice to become the master, not the victim of thought. One of the greatest exercises you can do is to take just 10 minutes each day and visualize clearly, calmly, vividly the life you are building. Not the life you fear, but the life you love. Picture yourself living it, walking through it, speaking as that version of yourself. Feel it in your bones. Then go into your day with that vision guiding you. This one practice, repeated daily, will begin to carve new channels of thought in your mind. And over time, your outer world will reshape itself to match the new image you are holding. Most people let the world shape their mind. But the wise, the builders, the thinkers, they shape their mind, and the world adapts in response. Now let me give you another law to anchor deep in your thinking. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Reflect on it every morning. The image I hold with faith and feeling becomes the life I walk through. That is a law. If you hold the image loosely, without belief, without energy, it drifts. But if you hold it with focus and emotion, if you keep it close and clear, your actions will begin to align. Your decisions will shape themselves around it. You will begin to attract people, ideas, and situations that match the image. Because the world does not respond to wishful thinking. It responds to thought fused with faith. Some may ask, but Earl, doesn't that sound too simple? Let me remind you, the greatest truths are simple. Not easy, but simple. Plant the seed, water it daily, protect it from weeds, and in time it will grow. Your mind works the same way. Your thoughts are seeds. Your consistency is water. Your discipline is protection. And your faith is sunlight. Most people dig up the seed with doubt before it has a chance to sprout. They check too soon. They complain too much. But if you understand that the world is simply a mirror, then you'll know to focus only on what you wish to see reflected. And so today I challenge you, do not try to change the world around you before first changing the world within you. Begin with your thoughts. Begin with your words. Begin with the way you see yourself. And let that inner transformation become the blueprint for your outer reality. When you do this, when you decide to take full responsibility for your mental environment, you will never again be powerless, because you will know the truth. The world reflects what you think, and what you think is entirely up to you. It's a strange thing, isn't it, that most people will work harder to change the outside world than they ever will to change their inner world. They'll fight circumstances, resist people, complain about systems, and chase solutions that lie far beyond their reach, when the only lever they ever truly needed was already inside them. The mind is the gateway. The thoughts we think are the keys, and yet we keep looking outside the gate, hoping the wind will blow it open. But here's the truth you must embrace. If you want the world to treat you differently, you must think differently. The world does not respond to your wishes, it responds to your attitude, your energy, your consistency, and the dominant picture you carry in your imagination. Now let's take a closer look at this word, imagination. You were born with it. It is not a childish toy. It is a divine instrument. It allows you to preview your future, to design it, to inhabit it before it exists. Most people use imagination to worry. They imagine loss, failure, embarrassment. And the more they feed those images, the more those outcomes seem to appear. Why? Because worry is a form of negative imagination. And the subconscious mind does not distinguish between fear and desire. It simply brings about what you feed it with intensity and repetition. So the question becomes, what are you imagining? Consistently, emotionally, every single day. If you are not imagining the life you want, you are unconsciously creating the one you fear. Here's what I suggest. Begin today to take back your imagination. Make it sacred. Make it disciplined. Before you get swept into the busyness of the world, take 5 minutes in the morning to visualize your ideal life. Not just the things you want, but the feeling you want to carry. Imagine yourself walking calmly, thinking clearly, speaking with certainty, acting with confidence. See yourself serving others, leading well, building something meaningful. Picture your surroundings, your routines, the way you rise in the morning and the way you speak at night. Let this image become your default mental home. The more you return to it, the more it will imprint itself on your subconscious. And once that imprint is strong, the world will begin to align itself around it. People may ask, but Earl, is that really all it takes? And my answer is simple. Yes, that's where it begins. You don't build a mansion by throwing bricks at random. You build it with a plan, a vision, and consistent effort. Life works the same way. Most people try to act their way into a new life while still thinking like the old version of themselves. But you cannot live a new reality with old mental patterns. You cannot rise with the same thoughts that kept you stuck. A new world demands a new mind. That's the reason why two people can be given the same opportunity, and one rises while the other stagnates. The opportunity was the same. The difference was in the thought pattern. Let's explore this a little deeper. Every time you visualize your ideal life with clarity and belief, you're carving a groove in your subconscious. And your subconscious is always working, even while you sleep. It is solving problems, filtering information, attracting ideas, and influencing your responses. When you consciously plant a new image and support it with positive action, your subconscious takes over. That's why the man who believes he will succeed begins to notice opportunities. His belief opens his eyes to the doorways that were always there, but invisible to a doubtful mind. In contrast, the man who believes in failure will miss every chance, ignore every path, and sabotage every blessing. His outer world simply reflects his inner prophecy. This is why the mind is not just powerful, it is sacred. And yet most people treat it casually. They feed it junk. They let others program it. They let fear rent space in it. And then they wonder why life feels chaotic, empty, or unfair. But the moment you decide to guard your mind like a fortress, everything begins to change. You become aware. You become intentional. You begin to monitor your thoughts, not with anxiety, but with purpose. You begin to replace the old with the new, the reactive with the proactive. And slowly the fog lifts. The vision becomes clearer. The direction becomes certain. And the results become extraordinary. Let me offer you something to write down, to say aloud, to meditate on every morning before the noise of the day begins. I hold the vision of my highest life, and the world unfolds to me accordingly. Let that become your vow. Say it not just with your lips, but with your heart. Speak it into your reflection. Say it in the moments when you feel unsure. Say it when you feel strong. Let it become your mental North Star. Because the world does not give you what you wish. It gives you what you believe and expect, repeatedly and emotionally. And the most powerful way to expect something is to see it, feel it, and act from it before it's even here. Now let's talk about action. There are those who say, but shouldn't I be doing more? And I say yes, but only after you've done the inner work. Action without alignment is wasted motion. But action fueled by belief, clarity, and imagination becomes powerful. The right thought leads to the right idea leads to the right action. And that action repeated with faith builds momentum. Think of a train. If the tracks are misaligned, the train will derail. But if the tracks are straight and the engine is strong, nothing can stop it. Your thoughts are the tracks. Your belief is the engine, and your action is the movement. Get those three aligned and the destination is inevitable. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know every step. You only need to start. The first action can be as simple as changing one belief, imagining one better scene, taking one different step than you would have yesterday, and then repeat it. Let that become your new rhythm. You're not trying to fix your entire life overnight. You are laying the foundation for a life that will reflect the greatness you now carry inside. You are no longer reacting to life, you are designing it. You are no longer hoping for better, you are creating better. That is the difference between drifting and building, between noise and clarity, between a common life and a purposeful one. And so today, remember this: imagination is not fantasy, it is preparation. It is the bridge between your current life and your ideal one. If you build that bridge with intention, if you cross it in your mind every day, then your feet will follow. And the world, the people, the circumstances, the resources will begin to organize around the image you have chosen to hold. Because the world always reflects what you think. The question is, are you thinking thoughts that deserve to be reflected? Now let's take the idea even further. The world does not simply reflect what you think, it multiplies it. One thought, when repeated and believed, becomes a lens. That lens filters every experience you have. A person who believes the world is hostile will see rudeness where none was intended. A person who believes opportunity is scarce will miss every open door. But a person who believes life is rich and responsive will find blessings in small moments and breakthroughs in unlikely places. The mind is not passive, it projects, and what it projects colors the world we see. So the thought isn't just reflected, it returns to us amplified. This is the great feedback loop of life, and you are always participating in it, either by design or by default. The power of this truth cannot be overstated. Your dominant thoughts are not harmless, they are not invisible. They leave fingerprints on your language, your posture, your tone, and your decisions. And the world, being a mirror, responds in kind. If you walk through life expecting rejection, you will subtly push people away. If you carry a fear of loss, you will act in ways that ensure it. But when you carry confidence, not arrogance but calm certainty, the world cannot help but notice. People listen, doors open, because energy is contagious, and belief, real belief, is magnetic. Not because it forces outcomes, but because it aligns you with the behaviors that bring those outcomes to life. Now this is where most people get it wrong. They hear a message like this and assume it's about positive thinking. But this is not about wishful slogans or empty cheer. This is about disciplined thinking. This is about taking full responsibility for the inner narrative you carry each day. It means monitoring the stories you tell yourself about who you are, what you deserve, what's possible, and what's inevitable. Most people wake up and immediately pick up yesterday's story: I'm tired, I'm behind, I'm stuck. But those are not facts, they're habits, and any mental habit, no matter how old, can be changed. But only if you decide to replace it with something stronger, something truer, something aligned with the life you now choose to create. So what does that look like in practice? It means that each morning, instead of defaulting to chaos, you write a new script. You define your identity, not by your past, but by your purpose. You say, today I am focused. Today I walk with intention. Today I am calm, clear, and decisive. You don't wait until the world gives you permission. You become the person your future demands right now in thought. And as that thought becomes consistent, the actions follow. The posture changes, the words change, and slowly the world begins to respond to this new signal you are sending out. Because the law never fails. The world reflects what you think, especially what you think about yourself. Let's pause here and plant something new in your mind. Write this down and say it aloud until it becomes instinct. I am a conscious creator. My life is a result of my inner words, and I choose thoughts that build, elevate, and inspire. Let that become your foundation. You see, the subconscious mind cannot resist repetition. It is programmed through feeling and through repeated affirmation. Every time you say these words with belief, even if it feels unfamiliar at first, you're building a new mental road. And eventually that road becomes the path of least resistance. It becomes easier to think strong thoughts than weak ones. Easier to expect good than to brace for bad. That's the power of mental training. If you've ever watched a great athlete prepare for competition, you'll notice something. They visualize, not just the win, but the process, the discipline, the movement, the breath. They see it first, they feel it first, and by the time the moment arrives, they are not guessing, they are remembering. The same principle applies to you. Whether you are stepping into a business meeting, a creative pursuit, a new relationship, or a personal challenge, see it first in your mind. Choose the outcome. See yourself succeeding, not in vague fantasy, but in calm clarity, and hold that vision longer than your doubts. If you do that enough times, you'll start to realize something extraordinary. You are not reacting to life anymore. You are designing it. Now someone might say, but Earl, what about the things I can't control? What about hardship? What about uncertainty? And my answer is yes, the storm will come. The loss, the delay, the unexpected test, those are part of life. But here's the key. Your thoughts are the ship, and the storm can only sink you if you let it inside. You may not control the wind, but you always control the sail. You decide the heading. You decide the story. And no matter what the weather says, your mind can remain a place of peace, order, and power. Because even if everything outside you is shaking, what's inside you can remain strong. That's what separates those who endure from those who collapse. Not luck, not talent, but mental sovereignty. So I want you to begin to see your thoughts as instructions to the world. Every thought says, this is what I expect, this is what I believe, this is who I am. And the world listens. Not immediately, not always dramatically, but eventually, consistently, undeniably. Your outer world begins to harmonize with your inner standard. And if your standard is low, if you tolerate chaos, disrespect, scarcity, then the world will offer those things in abundance. But if your standard is high, if your thoughts say, I walk with purpose, I serve with excellence, I expect abundance, then the world, like a river changing course, will begin to flow in your direction. And this is why it's not enough to simply have goals. You must have standards. And standards are not public. They are private. They are the invisible agreements you make with yourself. The way you think when no one is watching. The way you speak to yourself when you're alone. Raise your internal standard, and your results must rise to meet it. Because the law is inescapable. The world reflects what you think, not what you pretend to think, not what you post about, but what you truly think. And your results will always be a delayed report card of your dominant mental atmosphere. So what should you take from all of this? Simply this: the change you seek in life does not begin with luck, timing, or circumstances. It begins with thought. That thought becomes a belief. That belief becomes a pattern. And that pattern builds your life. You are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of chance. You are powerful beyond what you've been told. Because you carry within you the greatest creative force in existence, the ability to direct your own thoughts. And if you direct them wisely, consistently, and deliberately, then life will eventually bend to that direction. Because the world, in its quiet and faithful way, reflects what you think. If you've followed me this far, then by now you understand something that most people never grasp in an entire lifetime. Your thoughts are not just things, they are causes. They are the starting point of every outcome, every relationship, every financial condition, every emotional experience you've ever had or will ever have. This is not philosophy, this is not idealism, this is reality. The law is simple. You do not get what you want, you get what you are. And what you are is determined by what you think, most consistently, most intensely, and most repeatedly. That's why it doesn't matter how sincere your wishes are. It matters what you rehearse in your mind when no one else is around, because that is where your life is truly being shaped. People often confuse this with denial. Earl, they say, are you suggesting I ignore my problems? Of course not. What I'm telling you is this: never allow a problem to become your identity. Never allow the temporary condition of your life to dominate your permanent vision. Every person faces obstacles, but only a few ever learn to think through the obstacle instead of thinking about the obstacle. There is a difference. When you think about a problem, you magnify it, you circle around it, you identify with it, but when you think through it, you step back, you detach, you ask better questions, and your mind, freed from panic, begins to generate solutions. The problem no longer owns you. You have returned to the driver's seat of your own thinking. And here's the paradox. The most effective way to deal with your external world is not to obsess over it, but to first change your internal state. Most people try to clean the mirror by wiping the reflection, but the wise man polishes the original. If you are at peace within, your surroundings will begin to match that harmony. If you cultivate certainty within, your circumstances will bend to meet your clarity. This is not wishful thinking. It is how the law of correspondence works. As within, so without. As above, so below. The inner and the outer are never disconnected. One is always echoing the other. So if your results confuse you, look inward. If your world frustrates you, look inward. And if your life ever feels stuck, don't demand movement from the world. First, move your mind. Let me offer you a simple mental practice, one that has worked wonders for thousands. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to mentally review the kind of world you experienced. Ask yourself, what did today reflect back to me? What thoughts were mirrored through my actions, my results, my conversations? Don't judge yourself, don't criticize, simply observe, because awareness is the first step to transformation. If you notice patterns of stress, ask what kind of thoughts created that stress. If you notice moments of beauty, ask what kind of gratitude made you available to see it. Life is always giving you feedback, and when you learn to listen without ego, the message becomes clear. You are seeing not life as it is, but life as you are. Let me give you a phrase, a declaration that you can carry into your evenings as a final thought before sleep. Write this on a card. Speak it until it feels natural. My mind is ordered, strong, and calm. The world responds to the peace I carry within. That single idea can change your life, because the moment you stop fighting the world and start mastering your mind, you will find that the world begins to soften, open, and cooperate in ways you never imagined. People will treat you with more respect. Opportunities will appear with more frequency. Why? Because your internal vibration, the tone of your consciousness, will have changed, and life is always in harmony with your vibration. You might be wondering, is it really possible to live this way every day? And I'll tell you the truth. It is not only possible, it is necessary. If you want to live a life of excellence, of abundance, of calm success, then training your mind must become your top priority. Not once a week, not when things go wrong, but daily, like brushing your teeth, like eating, like breathing. You must develop the habit of conscious thinking. Feed your mind good ideas, review your vision, speak empowering words, refuse to dwell on worry, and act as if the life you imagine is already in motion, because it is. Your thoughts are the blueprint, and if the blueprint is consistent, then the structure must eventually rise to match it. The world around you is always shifting. That's why anchoring yourself in the outer world is dangerous. One day people praise you, the next they criticize. One day business is booming, the next it slows. One day the sun shines, the next it storms. But if your peace is built on those changing tides, then you will rise and fall with them. Instead, build your peace on your principles. Build your confidence on your character. Build your direction on your vision. When your mind is rooted in these internal anchors, no storm can shake you. You may bend, but you won't break. You may feel the pressure, but you won't lose the path, because you've trained yourself to live from the inside out, not the outside in. Let me share something I've observed after speaking to thousands of people over the years. Those who change their lives in meaningful ways don't always have the most talent, the best circumstances, or the perfect plan. What they have is an unwavering commitment to a new thought. They decide that a certain idea is worth believing, and they refuse to let it go. They might be afraid, they might be uncertain, but they hold that thought like a flame in the wind, and eventually the world responds. Why? Because that one thought, nurtured, protected, believed, becomes a guiding light. It organizes their decisions, it compels their actions, and it draws in the resources needed to bring it to life. And here's the encouragement I want to leave you with today. You already have everything you need. Not out there, not someday, but in here, right now. You have a mind. You have the ability to focus. You have the power to choose what you dwell on, and that is enough. Because once you begin choosing your thoughts consciously, consistently, with discipline and faith, then nothing in this world can keep your life from changing. The circumstances may delay it, people may doubt it, but the outcome is certain. Why? Because the law is certain, and the law says the world reflects what you think. If you raise the quality of your thinking, you raise the quality of your life. So tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself, what world did I create today with my thoughts? What did I rehearse? What did I believe? What did I feed my mind? And then make a commitment just for tomorrow to think one level higher, to choose peace over fear, vision over doubt, clarity over confusion. And you'll find that when you wake, the world will begin to rise to meet your new level, because it always does. That's the law, that's the gift, that's the reflection of your own creation. One of the greatest shifts you will ever make in life is when you move from asking, "What will the world give me?" to asking, "What am I giving the world through the quality of my thoughts?" This is the point of power. This is the beginning of maturity, not the kind defined by age, but the kind defined by awareness. Because a mature mind understands something very few ever truly learn. The world is not a vending machine where you press buttons and hope for results. It is a living mirror that responds to your inner atmosphere. Your thinking is the offering, and your life is the return. If you plant generosity, you receive it. If you give attention to excellence, it shows up in what you do and how you're treated. And if you consistently focus your mind on gratitude, then even the smallest details of life begin to feel like blessings. We live in a time where distractions are many, and deep thought is rare. Attention is scattered, minds are conditioned by repetition, not of truth but of noise. Social media, television, idle conversation, fear-based news, these are the teachers for most minds. And we wonder why peace is elusive, why clarity is rare, why confidence feels like an uphill battle. The answer is simple. Most people are not thinking, they are absorbing. And if you absorb confusion, you will reflect confusion. You will reflect confusion. If you absorb comparison, you will reflect insecurity. But if you begin, even quietly, to absorb wisdom, discipline, calm, and faith, then that is what your world will begin to echo. You will attract what you quietly practice, not what you loudly demand. Let's be clear, this is not about isolation. It is not about avoiding the world. It is about commanding the center of your mind so that you are no longer shaped by the external, but instead become a shaping force within it. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You determine the temperature, the direction, the tone of your day. And this begins not with ambition, but with awareness. Take 10 minutes in the morning. Not for emails, not for alerts, but for alignment. Sit with yourself, ask yourself, what am I thinking? What am I believing? And is it leading me where I want to go? Most people never stop long enough to ask these questions, and so they live lives shaped by thoughtless momentum. But you, now aware, must choose a better way. Let me give you a powerful image to hold on to. Picture your mind as the control tower of your life. Every decision, every response, every word you speak is cleared for takeoff by your thinking. If the tower is clear, calm, and precise, then everything moves smoothly. But if the tower is cluttered with static, fear, doubt, anger, then chaos unfolds on the runway. Things crash, plans delay, and confusion sets in. This is why emotional control begins with thought control. Your emotions do not arise in isolation. They are the children of repeated thoughts. And when you learn to manage the thought, you begin to manage the feeling. And once you manage the feeling, your behavior, your energy, your presence, all begin to operate with clarity and force. Now say this with me, better yet, write it down and read it each morning this week. My world is a result of my inner order. I think clearly, feel deeply, and move purposefully. Let it soak in. Let it become your mental posture. Because if you think with order, your actions will be efficient. If you feel with depth, your connections will be meaningful. And if you move with purpose, your results will not just be good, they will be great. The world around you has no choice but to meet the structure you've built within. Not because of magic, but because of alignment. Thought, emotion, and action working in harmony. This is what creates impact. This is what produces results that seem to defy logic. Because when you are aligned internally, life flows externally. You may not notice it all at once. Change rarely announces itself with trumpets, but you will feel it. You'll feel yourself getting clearer, more grounded, less reactive. You'll notice that the same situations which once disturbed you no longer have power over your peace. You'll respond instead of react. You'll pause instead of panic. And that pause, that moment of thoughtfulness, will become the doorway to better decisions, stronger boundaries, and higher outcomes. You'll no longer be swept by the chaos around you because you've built calm within you. And this calm becomes your strength. Not loud, not flashy, but deep and immovable. One of the most extraordinary things about mastering your thinking is how it spills into every corner of life. Your work improves, your conversations become richer, your creativity opens, your sense of time expands. Why? Because you are no longer wasting energy fighting your own mind. Most people lose more energy battling internal friction than anything they face outside. But once your mind is ordered, it becomes a reservoir of power. Your thoughts no longer sabotage you. They support you. They remind you who you are, what matters, what to pursue, what to ignore. Your mind becomes your ally, not your enemy. And when that shift happens, the outer world cannot help but follow suit. Now there's a warning I must give you. Once you begin to think clearly, you will no longer fit into every conversation, every environment, every group. And that is not a problem, it is confirmation. It means you are elevating. It means your energy is rising. You may find that some people around you are uncomfortable with your clarity, your peace, your focus. Let them be. Your job is not to dim your light. Your job is to continue rising, to continue thinking better, because in time your example may become their inspiration or not. But either way, your duty is not to fit in. It is to reflect the life you were created to live. And that life starts with what you think. So as we continue forward, I want you to carry this one truth with you like a compass. Your thinking is the first cause of everything. Not some things, everything. There is nothing in your outer experience that did not first pass through the filter of your mind, whether by default or design. This is the greatest responsibility and the greatest gift, because it means that every day is a chance to think a new world into being. One thought at a time, one belief at a time, one focused moment at a time. The world has been waiting to reflect the highest version of you. Now it's your turn to think it into existence. There is a sacred rhythm to the mind, a flow that when understood gives a man or woman the ability to move through life with grace and certainty. But to find that rhythm, one must first quiet the noise. You must quiet the opinions, the comparisons, the replays of yesterday's mistakes. The mind cannot operate at its highest frequency while entangled in the static of the world. That's why stillness is not a luxury, it is a necessity. The great thinkers, creators, and leaders of history all knew this. They made time to think, not to scroll, not to react, but to think. Because when thought is clear, everything else follows. And when thought is clouded, even the greatest opportunities can be missed. The mind is a tool, but only in stillness can it be sharpened. You may ask, how do I find this stillness? You begin by withdrawing your attention from what you cannot control. You begin by noticing how often your mind drifts to things that are none of your business, other people's choices, imaginary futures, fears that haven't happened. You begin by reclaiming your awareness and directing it inward. That does not mean detachment from life, it means presence within it. When you are present, you become powerful. You stop leaking energy into fantasy and start channeling it into creation. You stop being pulled and start directing. You think not just to escape, but to build. And the world sensitive to your signal begins to move with you, not against you. This is why the most important work you'll ever do is internal, because the world you experience is not just about circumstances, it's about perception. Two people can experience the same event, and one finds meaning while the other finds misery. What's the difference? The lens of thought. What we focus on, we amplify. What we repeat, we believe. What we accept, we live. And so your mind is not just a filter, it is a projector. It colors everything you see. It shapes your interpretation. And your interpretation determines your response. Therefore, if you want to live better, you must think better. You must be bold enough to say, I choose what I magnify. I choose what I echo. I choose what becomes real. Now let's speak plainly. This kind of mental discipline is not common. It will make you stand out. It will make you seem different. But let that difference be your strength. Because the majority of people do not live with clarity. They live by reaction. They are tossed by the winds of media, gossip, mood, and moment. But you are being called to something higher. You are being called to carry an inner state that is not dependent on outer applause, a state of calm power, a state of grounded clarity. And that state comes from the decision to monitor your thinking as a daily practice. Not a trend, not a weekend workshop, but a way of life. Your future is not built by what you visit occasionally, it's built by what you think repeatedly. Here is a law I want you to engrave upon your mind. Repeat it now. What I hold in mind with conviction, I experience in life with evidence. That's not a slogan. That's a law. The world responds to your inner consistency. The more emotion, repetition, and clarity you invest into an idea, the more your mind accepts it as real, and the more your world conforms to support it. This is why a man who walks with certainty is more likely to succeed than one who hesitates, even if the first knows less. It's not about knowing everything, it's about believing what you do know so completely that the world mirrors that conviction back to you. Life rewards clarity, and clarity begins with thought. Some people will say, but that's too much responsibility. And I say, that's where your freedom lives. When you understand that your thoughts are not just reactions but instruments, you stop being a victim. You stop blaming. You stop waiting. You begin to design. The mind becomes a workshop, not a prison. You become the craftsman of your reality. And the world, ever obedient to the inner signal, begins to adjust. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes consistency. But it works, because the law is always working. Whether for chaos or creation, that depends on your thinking. So how do you keep your thoughts aligned? By surrounding them with the right environment. Read books that stretch you. Listen to voices that challenge you. Spend time in silence. Write down your beliefs and review them often. Guard your input as if it were your bank account, because in truth it is more valuable. What you feed your mind becomes the architecture of your future. Most people guard their homes better than their minds. But the wisest among us know, protect the inner and the outer will flourish. This is not theory, this is cause and effect. The mind is the source and life is the printout. I've said it before and I'll say it again, you don't need a perfect past to create a powerful future. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need every answer. You simply need a mind that is disciplined enough to believe in what it has not yet seen. A mind that sees beyond current conditions. A mind that holds a picture of strength, peace, purpose, and wealth, and refuses to let go. That mind is rare, but that mind changes everything. Because the world does not yield to noise, it yields to vision. It yields to those who think as if their thoughts were commands, and if you are consistent, your thoughts will become commands. Now let me ask you something. What would happen if you lived one full day, just one, thinking only thoughts that supported your highest future? What if you spent that day with zero tolerance for fear-based thinking, gossip, self-doubt, or smallness? What if from the moment you opened your eyes, you fed your mind only with that which builds, strengthens, and uplifts? I can tell you what would happen. The world around you would begin to take shape in a new way. Conversations would shift. Ideas would rise, circumstances would adjust. Not because of coincidence, but because you chose to reflect the life you desire, not the life you fear. And so I challenge you, try it. Just one day, then another, and another. Build the habit, and soon the habit will build you. Because the world, quiet and faithful, is always reflecting your dominant thoughts. It does not punish, it does not judge, it simply mirrors. And when you become the kind of person who thinks with clarity, strength, and direction, you will find that the world, in its own time and way, begins to echo your vision back to you. That is the secret. That is the work. That is the power of a mind aligned with truth. You've come this far, and now we arrive at a truth that sits quietly at the center of all success, peace, and personal mastery. The world in every form, its circumstances, its people, its timing, is not random. It is responsive. It listens not to your surface words, but to your repeated thoughts. And more than that, it reflects back the quality of your internal order. Your thoughts are not private, they are causal. They do not remain hidden. They shape what's seen. Every belief you have, every sentence you repeat to yourself, every image you carry silently throughout the day, it all becomes instruction. And the world obeys. Slowly at first, quietly, but persistently, inevitably, and with uncanny accuracy. That's why success never begins on the outside. It is always an inside-out process. And once you understand that, you will never look at life the same way again. So now the question becomes, how will you live? Will you drift through life, reacting, echoing the noise of others, adopting beliefs by accident, or will you step into the role you were meant to play? The thinker, the builder, the creator of your own direction. Because the responsibility is real, but so is the reward. Once you become the authority in your own thinking, you become powerful in every room. Not because you dominate others, but because you are no longer dominated by fear, confusion, or doubt. You enter every conversation with clarity. You face every day with composure. You begin to move through life with the quiet assurance of someone who knows their world is changing because their mind has already changed. This is why every transformation begins with a decision to think higher, to think stronger, to think longer term than you ever have before. And with that decision comes discipline. Discipline not just in action but in thought. Because what good is changing your schedule if your mind is still ruled by the same patterns? What good is a new routine if it's driven by the same old self-talk? Change is not change unless it reaches the mind. And that change is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a habit, a sacred daily return to the kind of thinking that builds your highest life. and that habit becomes your character. Your character becomes your results, and your results reinforce the very thoughts that began the cycle. Now let's talk about vision. Vision is not fantasy. It is clarity of direction. It is knowing where you're headed, even when you can't yet see the entire path. Vision is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. Often it whispers. But those who hear it and hold it and honor it daily in their thinking, they begin to live lives that others call extraordinary. Why? Not because they're special, but because they're consistent. They think about what they want more than they think about what they fear. They hold the picture longer than the doubt. And the world, always faithful to thought, begins to respond with doors, people, resources, and alignment. And this is how miracles happen. Not by chance, but by thought given form through belief and persistence. There's a reason the greatest teachers always return to the mind. From the scriptures to the Stoics, from philosophers to prophets, the message has been the same. As a man thinketh, so is he. Not as he wishes, not as he dreams, but as he thinketh, daily, emotionally, consistently. That is why the command is simple but powerful. Guard your thoughts, feed them wisely, direct them deliberately, and hold to them faithfully, even when nothing around you yet matches the picture. Because the picture is not false, it is just early. And what is early today will be real tomorrow, if you do not let go. This is the law, this is the secret, this is the origin of all sustained success. So what can you do today? Start by writing down the kind of person you choose to become, not someday, but now. Write it in the present tense. Read it every morning, speak it every night. And most importantly, think in alignment with that identity. Ask yourself throughout the day, is this thought helping me become the person I wrote down? If it is, feed it. If it isn't, release it. This alone, if done with discipline, will change your life, because it will change your default mode of thinking. And once your default thoughts change, your automatic actions will follow. And once your actions change, your environment will evolve. The reflection will adjust to match the original. And I want to leave you with one final phrase, your final law to anchor this journey. I am the thinker of my life, and my world obeys the thoughts I hold with faith. Write it, say it, make it part of your inner dialogue. Because when you finally take ownership of your inner world, everything in the outer world shifts to align with it. Not overnight, not always in the ways you expect, but always in principle, always with accuracy, and always in time. That is how the world works. That is how success is born, and that is how peace is sustained, not through control of life, but through command of thought. So as this message comes to a close, I invite you not to just agree, but to act. Begin the practice, choose the thoughts, hold the vision, anchor the new self-image, and do it again tomorrow, and again the next day. This is not hype, this is discipline, and in time the results will not be subtle, they will be undeniable. The people around you will ask, what changed? And you'll smile, because you'll know nothing changed outside, everything changed inside, and the world like a mirror reflected it back, because that's what it does, that's what it's always done. And now that you know, it will never be the same again. If this message brought you clarity, if it helped you rise even one level in thought, then I ask you to share it. Comment below with the law you've chosen to live by. Because when we declare it, we reinforce it. When we speak it, we strengthen it. And when we share it, we invite others to rise with us. And that is how we change, not just our world, but the world, one thought at a time.